So I wanted to make a video kind of about a topic that I've been thinking about, and it's a topic that success, comes to those who don't want it. And it was something that I'd been thinking about a lot from my own personal experience and then different stories I've heard of people, and then um, just what I've observed myself of people that become successful and do not become successful. And how it's been true for me in multiple fields, and I think it is generally the case. And I think there's kind of a lot I can say on the subject. But success, I think, doesn't it comes to people who don't want it. And what do I mean by that statement? Um, I mean that it comes to those people who could kind of have it but could take it or leave it, and it comes to those who set goals and want to achieve them, but um, I think in some ways are happy and balanced in their approach, and because what happens is that there's all the people that don't achieve their goals, and then there are people that are too aggressive and maybe achieve some things but fail or crash and burn. Um, so speaking from my personal experience, I'd had personal success in each of the main fields. So they'd say like health and uh, romantic life and in money. Um, and I could say that I've had pretty significant success in each. So in dating, I don't talk about it too much, but sure, yes, I have in money, in finances and stuff, business. Um, I've had great success, and I'm pretty stable. And in health, I've done well too in powerlifting and lifting, and then just having general health be well too, um, and then just I don't know, like altogether success there. Um, so what are some things that I've seen that make me say, so first of all, there you can branch people off into like a few categories. Like there are people that don't really have goals, like the average people of society, and they don't end up achieving things just because they don't set the goals. um, what also ends up happening to them is like a lot of the time there will be like get rich quick schemes that they fall prey to, and that can happen for any of the three fields. They um, get some dating product that ends up being bad or bullshit. They get something for health and fitness that ends up kind of not working out for them, or they get some money making pyramid scheme and it ends up not working out. um, those pyramid schemes are common, and like a lot of them will go to them and end up falling prey to them. So these are regular people, I could say. Then there are more ambitious, goal oriented people, but still a lot of them don't end up achieving what they want, or maybe they do for a while and then they drop out. Um, and what I think the cause is, what I was saying, is that success comes to people who don't want it. In the sense, what I mean by this is that the people that can have it but can take it or leave it, they're not pursuing it so aggressively that they'll kind of like risk everything or lose everything doing it. They kind of they can take it or leave it. So what I see ends up happening is like a lot of people. I go to the gym. I've been lifting over 7 years. I think 8 years at this point. And then I've been working out since I've been really young, like 12 or 13. I've seen people come and go. Some people will lift consistently for a few years, but as more years go by, they stop and they can't continue the consistency, and they can't keep going. And I think part of it is that sometimes they want it too much. Sometimes they do it too aggressively. I think it's a very common thing that you see people like, they're like trying to get in shape and they just don't know what to do, and then they start and they set a date, and then they diet really aggressively, train really aggressively. They do it 6 days a week, 7 days a week, and it doesn't last. They'll keep that up maybe for a couple months, maybe for a year or two, but at some point they drop out. Versus the person that doesn't want it as bad, quote unquote, like, but they just have some balanced goals. Maybe they can continue to do it consistently for a long time, 5 plus years, 10 plus years, and keep going. um, Now my observation has been that, like, if you have like extreme success, you have like the multimillionaires and the billionaires, or really extreme success like in lifting, where like you're lifting really crazy numbers, or in dating, where like the guys that are dating the most gorgeous girls. Actually, there's a lot to say about the dating topic, but in each of those fields, the people that get to the top, you would think that they're kind of working harder than everyone else and doing more than everyone else, but a lot of the time they're not. They're consistent, and they show up and they try different things, do different things, and they work fairly hard, but some days they just show up and work kind of hard, you know? The reason that they succeed is because they're already happy to begin with, I think, and they're content with a few simple things in their life. And other than that, they they can have the success or not have it. They can take it or leave it, you know? And this is very true. Dating is where you see this the most directly, I think. So, like, if you, I know this from experience that if you want to meet like the 10 girl, the hottest girl, the most beautiful girl, and you want to date that girl, then when you talk to her, you have to be able to talk to her and hold eye contact like this, and you have to be able to um, kind of treat her normally like a person, but treat her like she's any other girl, in the sense that like you don't put her on a pedestal, like you be nice, you be kind, but don't you don't do what most guys do, which is that they buy her all these things, or that they shower her with like compliments, or they can't stop staring, and they're like they point to their buddies and they're like, oh, look at this girl, and whoa, look at her, like she looks amazing, and like dang, and then they like go and talk to her, and one of them gets the courage to go and talk to her, and none of these guys will ever date the girl, and the girl will be flattered, but she won't date any of those guys. But the guy that she will date will be the one that sees her, smiles, and then goes back to what he's doing, or maybe like notices her, but then doesn't do too much. Like, and this is the significant thing that you learn in dating and pickup, is that like that mindset of you can take it or leave it. I've kind of learned that like dating and pickup is sales, dating is sales, and sales is dating. Like it's very similar, and it's the same thing that like you in sales and in dating, that like, oh, like you can take it or you can leave it. You can put the offer out, but then you have to be like in sales. They said you have to be willing to be able to take the offer away at any time. You know, you show this offer, you're the catch. The girl isn't the catch. You have to be the catch. You know, even if she's much more attractive than you, but like it's in your mind that you're the prize, and like, okay, well, do I like her? And that's in running through your head, and not does she like me? You know, so like when you see the most attractive girl, you just kind of you're around there, you let her notice you, and you kind of notice her, but you don't do too much. You don't treat her like she's special. You can take it or leave it. Um, these are the people that get to the very top. I think they set like concrete, like realistic goals. They're consistent. They work smart, but then they're they're not sloppy. They're not overly aggressive, and they have like a sense of like what their goal is, what they want to achieve, and they work towards it. But they're willing to take certain steps. They're willing to pivot and go different directions. They're willing to try new strategies, and I think they're just willing to do things differently, you know, and achieve their goal. Like they're set on achieving the goal, but then they don't do things to they attempt, so they show up and they're consistent, but also they don't push the extreme to the point where like they crash and burn, you know. So um in money, like a good example of what I've been talking about is that if you look at the people that become the multimillionaires and the billionaires and the crazy billionaires, more often than not, almost like 9 times out of 10, like they live pretty modest lifestyles for the money that they make. And the reason is that they were only able to get to that level of wealth because they didn't care about the money that much. You know, they didn't do it for the money's sake, but they did it because of like the sake of fulfilling work, you know. The concept of fulfilling work, and what they're doing, being able to have meaningful work that impacts other people. And if they amass insane amounts of wealth, to be doing that not for themselves but for what they can contribute to society or to humanity, that's what drives them, you know. And that's why like you saw Jeff Bezos become a billionaire, and like he's driving like a Camry or I think a Civic, you know. And you see Warren Buffett still drives a regular car. Carlos Slim, Mexican billionaire, he still drives a regular car. They have their regular house. They buy some assets so that they can be protected, and they can kind of have their money be secure in making the money. But that's it. Like they like to live a simple life, and they can, as I said, they can have it or not have it. You know, um, that's what allows them to get to the top. Versus like you see any regular person, if they became a millionaire or a multimillionaire, they'd buy all kinds of stupid things that they have no use for, and that kind of wouldn't do anything at all for them, and it'd just be like liability things, you know. And the other point that I had, like they could take it or leave it for like the person that ends up actually achieving these things. The other thing is that they're fulfilled already, you know. They're fulfilled just by very simple things, and that's it. They don't need the results for the fulfillment. So you go to the guy that, like I said, like if he if the guy that ends up actually getting the girl that's a 10, he's fulfilled whether he gets the girl or not. You know, he's cool because he knows that, okay, she's a beautiful, gorgeous girl. If it happens, awesome. Good for her, good for me. But if it doesn't, it's not too bad. And there's just another great girl like her, like around the corner. And like I might see another 10 girls like her very soon, you know? And there's a million other girls like her. And he knows what his own worth is, and like he knows um, you know, if it happens, it does. If not, it's all right. And he also knows not to kind of lower his own morals or standards or beliefs. So he's not gonna lower himself or degrade himself um, to impress this girl, or to do things that he shouldn't as a man kind of do. Like, you know, like spend insane amounts of money just to make her like him or something, or kind of lower himself in any way. He won't do that. Um, so like back to the topic of like, okay, the billionaire, um, they would do things that like kind of they got to that level because they would do things that would further their cause rather than um, rather than just do things for the money. So the reason they can get to that extreme high level is because they can, again, as I said, take it or leave it. And because they can get to that extreme high level because they're willing to, you know, make decisions for the sake of like of the greater good, for like the company or for other people, and not for money's sake or profit's sake, you know. um, a big thing I can say about myself in like lifting success, and I see this with the billionaires and stuff too, but in lifting success, I saw that I became the strongest guy at my gym, and I did it just lifting pretty balanced for 7 years, training hard a lot of the time, training smart a lot of the time, but just progressing gradually. But the key thing is that the other guys that are strong at my gym, all of them are either on SARMs or they're on steroids, and I'm friends with all of them, and they confess that they're, you know, they're all on performance enhancing drugs. And like they'll ask me like, what are you on? And I'm like, I don't take anything. And I'm not opposed to it. I think I would possibly take stuff in the future, but even if I did, it would be very little. And the reason is that I'm already fulfilled. And like for me, the work itself is fulfilling. Just getting to lift and enjoying the lift and making a little bit of progress is fulfilling. um, and I get fulfillment from doing that. For them, um, and again, these are like good friends of mine, but so for them, sure, the lifting is fulfilling, but I think a lot of the time the result is fulfilling too, and they get driven and caught up in pursuing the result, you know, and they get so like, oh, I can take this much, and then um, I'll be able to lift a lot more. They know that they can run 20 or 30 milligrams of this substance, and then suddenly their lifts will shoot up this much, you know. But if they could hold that off, so like the people that end up being long-term successful, that become the greatest lifters of all time, they do it with very little gear, you know. And the reason um, is that they can put off doing, they can do it with just a little bit. They can, again, take it or leave it. They can have the result now, or they can be balanced, train naturally for more years, and like down the road later take a little bit of steroids, and then like just a tiny bit, and then a little bit more, and like they let their body gradually accustom to it, and they can make wise decisions, because again, because they're not doing it for the short-term gains, they're not doing it for the money's sake or for the lifts that they'll instantly hit those, for the sake of that, but they're doing it for what it'll become like down the road, you know. um, so like in business and in money, there's this concept that like the person that wins in business and that becomes the most successful business is the person that can put off getting a profit for the longest time. They can pay more to acquire a customer and not make their money back. So they're willing to, the successful company is willing to get a customer, pay let's say a few $100s to get a customer, and not receive a return on that money for 3 or 4 years, and they get that money back in, let's say, like 3 or 4 years time. They can get the return on the customer. But most people can't do that, and most companies can't do that. Most companies are, again, like they just want the quick result, and they're like, okay, they want to pay money just to get a customer and get them to pay money right away, but they can't put off putting it for getting it 3 or 4 years later, and they can't long term think, you know. And it's the same thing in lifting that I see, that like people can't long term think. They can't take it or leave it, and they can't put off making gains gradually over 3 or 4 years or over 10 years. They got to make it really quickly, and that kind of holds them back too. Um, so I mean, there's a lot of this, kind of like a rambling video, but there's a lot more I could say. I think that the people that end up having like the greatest successes of all, they're willing to kind of long term think. They're, as I said, willing to take it or leave it and to go gradually and be patient. I think they're humble, and they tend to be like, you know, like have just a few simple things, like few simple things that they enjoy doing meaningful work for other people, have a few friends, a few close relationships, and that's it. You have your family, your close friends, and you're fulfilled, and you don't need too much to be happy. You don't need any of the external things, and if you have that, and you have that fulfillment already, that, and you have that, like I said, take it or leave it mindset, that you're willing to kind of put things off or be patient and like go gradually, then you'll have more success as it comes, you know. To the topic of like gear and like taking steroids or other performance enhancing drugs, my thought is this, that like, okay, for myself, I'm still natural. I want to be natural for a long time, and but when I do start to take, it would be very little at a time, maybe a small cycle, and then be natural again, and then maybe a little bigger cycle, and then natural again, and maybe a different compound, and then natural again, because I want to pursue the goal, but I'm not in an insane rush, and I'm not going to do what a lot of companies do, or a lot of lifters do, where they pursue something so aggressively that it ends up kind of knocking them off course, and like they do it, they get insane short-term results, and then suddenly they um, have problems with their liver, their heart. They have to quit lifting altogether, or they have to, or businesses that like want to grow and expand really aggressively, and they do so, and then suddenly, okay, they go out of business, and suddenly they couldn't keep up with all the expansion that they had. Versus if you told them that like, oh, you can have this aggressive, like all the places that you want to go, all the territories you want to go, you can get there, but it will take 5 years instead of 1 year, or it'll take 10 years instead of 1 year. Would they be willing to do that? Well, the companies, the people that become billionaires and become the highest success level, like they're willing to do that. They're willing to wait. Um, it's the same concept, and like what I said about the guy that wants to date the really pretty girl, like he's willing to kind of be patient with it, where all the other guys will go and rush up to her and like start talking to her and like say what they want to say. Like he'll be willing to kind of be gradual with it, kind of be patient, feel it out, and like be able to take it or leave it, you know. He'll like kind of walk past and then go back to what he's doing, and he'll attract her interest, because she'll be like, oh, hey, like, well, why is he not like rushing to me like all the other guys, and like, oh, there's, she'll notice something, you know, that something's different, and that'll intrigue her, and then maybe she'll kind of come near you, and then like you can say, oh, hey, do you have like any more sets left or whatever, and you start to talk a little bit, but you're willing to be patient and go gradual with it. So that's kind of my thoughts on the topic. I think people that get to really crazy extreme success, they're willing to be patient, they're willing to be gradual, they're willing to take it or leave it, and what leads to them getting that success uh, is again like being able to take it or leave it, and then like having fulfillment already in just a few simple things in life, like a few simple friends, simple relationships, and then um, meaningful work, and like a couple of other things in their life, and they're already pretty happy and fulfilled. And then from there, from that base, they can go and do extraordinary things because they don't need to feed their ego, they don't need to feed materialism, they don't need to feed addictions or a lot of other things that are just unnecessary or counterproductive to achieving the goals that you set. That's what I think really separates extremely successful people from sort of successful people, and then separates them from just regular average people. And the more years that go, I think that extreme success really is achievable, and that's kind of some of like the substance of what it would take to achieve that. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video, please let me know what you think below, and kind of yeah, what your thoughts are on the topic, and feel free to like and subscribe. There'll be like a lot more to come.